Have you ever found yourself caught in a whirlwind romance, only to be left with a bitter aftertaste and a bruised heart? Or maybe you've seen a friend make the same mistake, falling for a woman who seemed wonderful at first, but turned out to be a disastrous match. If this rings a bell, you're not alone. We've all been there. The good news: there are warning signs, red flags if you will, that can alert us to potential trouble on the horizon. By identifying these red flags in women early, you can save yourself a lot of time, heartache, and regret. Red flag number 1. She's overly controlling. Imagine this. You're settling down for a night with your friends to catch the big game, or maybe binge watch that new series that everyone's been talking about. Suddenly, your phone buzzes. It's her, asking? No, instructing you to abandon your plans, because she's decided you should do something else. Feels a bit like a puppet on a string, doesn't it? This is our first red flag, when she is overly controlling. There's a fine line between caring and controlling, and it's important to understand the difference. It's one thing for her to express concern about your unhealthy habits or your questionable decisions. That's a sign of care. But when she's constantly dictating your actions, deciding who you hang out with, how you spend your free time, even how you dress, that's not care, that's control. Red flag number 2. She avoids talking about the future. Have you ever tried planning a weekend getaway only to have her change the subject? Or maybe you suggested moving in together, and she's always got an excuse to delay it. Here's your second warning sign. She avoids talking about the future. Look, we all get nervous when it comes to serious conversations about the future. It's natural. But if every time you bring up anything beyond next week, she turns into Houdini and performs a disappearing act, it's time to take note. If she's consistently sidestepping discussions about long-term commitments or even simple future plans, it might mean she's not viewing the relationship with the same level of seriousness as you are. An integral part of any successful relationship is growing together, planning together, and dreaming together. If she's hesitant or dismissive every time future plans or goals come up, it's a clear signal she might not be as invested in the relationship as you are. Red flag number 3. She's always the victim. All right, let's talk about something we've all come across. The perpetual victim. You know the type. The one who's never wrong, who's always being mistreated, who seems to attract bad luck like a magnet. This is the woman who can turn even a spilled coffee into a personal tragedy. No matter the circumstance, she's always the victim, never at fault. This constant victim mentality is your third red flag. It's one thing to encounter unfortunate events, but it's another to refuse to take responsibility for any personal failures or missteps. If she's always shifting blame and never admitting her mistakes, she's demonstrating a lack of emotional maturity. Emotional growth involves acknowledging our missteps, learning from them, and using them to become better individuals. It's about self-reflection and improvement. If she's always playing the blame game, it reveals her inability to self-reflect and her refusal to take accountability. Red flag number 4. She breaks boundaries. Now, imagine this scenario. You've had a long day at work. All you crave is some alone time to unwind. But the moment you express this, she pouts, or worse, explodes, accusing you of pushing her away. Sound familiar? This is all about boundaries, and when she disregards them, it's our fourth red flag. Respecting boundaries is not just about giving you space when you need it. It's about honoring your needs, your privacy, and your feelings. It's understanding that despite being in a relationship, you're still an individual with personal needs and preferences. If she constantly encroaches upon your personal space, dismisses your feelings, or makes you feel guilty for wanting some me time, it shows a fundamental lack of respect for your boundaries. Red flag number 5. She's secretive. There's a certain allure and mystery, isn't there? A bit of intrigue that keeps you interested, keeps you guessing. But what happens when the woman you're with becomes as inscrutable as a secret agent, and your relationship starts feeling like a suspense thriller with too many unanswered questions? That's our 5th red flag. She's overly secretive. Now, I'm not talking about her keeping the birthday gift she got for you under wraps or surprising you with a date night. I'm talking about her being mysteriously vague about her past, her plans, or even her daily activities. She might dodge questions about where she was or who she was with, leaving you feeling like a detective trying to solve a case. Red flag number 6. She disrespects you. Imagine this scenario. You're out with friends, sharing laughs and stories. When out of nowhere, she makes a biting remark about you. You try to laugh it off as a joke, but it stings. Worse yet, it's not the first time. This brings us to red flag number 6. She disrespects you. Disrespect can be a tricky thing to identify because it often starts subtly, maybe even disguised as playful teasing. But over time, it escalates. Constant criticism, belittling comments, and outright insults, especially in public, are clear indicators of disrespect. You see, respect is a fundamental pillar in a healthy relationship. It's about valuing the other person, their thoughts, their feelings, and their individuality. When she disrespects you, it undermines your self-esteem and the health of your relationship. Red flag number 7. She never compromises. Have you ever felt like you're playing a never-ending game of tug-of-war? You're pulling for balance, for fairness, for equality, but she's always pulling harder, insisting things go her way. This is our 7th red flag. She never compromises. You see, in the grand theater of love, compromise is the unsung hero. It might not get the spotlight like the grand gestures or passionate declarations, but without compromise, the play falls apart. Compromise is the cornerstone of balance in a relationship, the quiet assurance that both partners' needs and desires are valued and addressed. But if she always insists on having her way, dismissing your opinions or choices without consideration, that's not just frustrating, it's unfair. Whether it's about deciding where to dine or navigating more significant issues like career choices or family matters, if she's playing a solo act and leaving no room for your input, it's a clear sign of imbalance. Red flag number 8. She's too needy. Picture this. Your phone is flooded with her messages every minute, every hour, asking where you are, what you're doing, who you're with. When you don't respond immediately, a storm brews. Sound familiar? Then you're facing our 8th red flag. She's overly needy. It's human to desire attention, especially from someone you're in a relationship with. But when her need for your attention crosses the line into dependency, it becomes suffocating. If she needs constant validation, reassurance, or expects you to be her only source of happiness, it's a clear sign of underlying insecurities and neediness. It's important to remember that while a relationship contributes to your happiness, it shouldn't be the sole source of it. Being overly reliant on a partner for emotional well-being is not healthy. You're her significant other, not a life preserver she clings to avoid drowning. Red flag number 9. She constantly flirts with other men. Let's talk about a scenario that can leave even the most confident among us shaken. You're at a party together, and you notice her continuously flirting with other men, all the while giving you sidelong glances, checking if you're watching. This brings us to the 9th red flag. She constantly flirts with other men. Flirting can be harmless fun, a little playful banter here and there. But when it's a regular pattern, especially in your presence, it's a slap in the face of your relationship's exclusivity. More than causing feelings of jealousy or insecurity, it's a blatant disregard for your feelings and for the boundaries of your relationship. More than the act of flirting itself, it's the intent behind it that matters. If she's flirting to make you jealous or to get your attention, it's a manipulative tactic that's not just unhealthy, but also disrespectful. Red flag number 10. She's manipulative. For our final act, let's address the master puppeteer, the manipulator. It's subtle, it's crafty, and it can leave you questioning your own sanity. This brings us to the 10th and arguably most significant red flag. She's manipulative. Manipulation can take many forms. Guilt trips, playing the victim card, twisting words, gaslighting, to name a few. She might make you feel like you're always in the wrong, or even make you doubt your own judgment. It's like you're in a labyrinth with no exit, constantly navigating her mind games. Manipulative behavior is not just damaging, it's toxic. It's designed to control and dominate, leaving you feeling confused and powerless. This is far from the foundations of a healthy relationship, which should be based on mutual respect, honesty, and open communication. Being in a relationship should feel like coming home, safe, comforting, and reassuring. If instead, you feel like you're walking on eggshells, constantly second-guessing yourself, it's time to stop and take a hard look at this red flag. And there we have it, the 10 red flags in women you should never ignore. It's crucial to remember that we all have our quirks and flaws, and occasional bouts of these behaviors do not necessarily spell disaster. However, when these red flags become a recurring pattern, it's time to step back and reassess the situation. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. If you found this content valuable and want more insights into relationships, personal growth, and more, do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's a small act, but it makes a big difference. Before we wrap up, I'd like to hear from you. Have you experienced any of these red flags? Or maybe there's something we missed that you think should be on this list. Drop a comment below. Your experiences might just be the guidance someone else needs. Until next time, remember to love wisely, not blindly. Stay aware, stay strong, and always respect your worth.